How do you feel about going to Mars? Maybe not you personally, but mankind in general, let's say. Hi, this is Deacon John Evanoff coming to you today to ask you that offbeat question and offer some reflection on the topic. I'm going to reveal something about myself. I'm a long-time space enthusiast. I have been that way since the 50s, watching the space program develop in the United States and around the world. But now my interest in space has sort of been reignited, no pun intended, or maybe intended, by these private companies that are now trying to get into space. One of them being pictured right here is in Texas. We have a company owned by Elon Musk who's trying to get to Mars desperately, like within the next 4 or 5 years. And he has built a series of prototypes, and one is actually going to fly up to about 10 miles in the South Texas sky this week. I think maybe even tomorrow. We'll be keeping an eye on that. And I'm all for all of that. I really would be excited as a younger man about going to Mars myself, maybe even. I've done some crazy things in my life. But throughout all this talk about going to Mars with this great push, which seems to be succeeding with this starship here, it's called a starship actually. There's a theme that keeps coming up in all the press conferences that Elon Musk holds about going to Mars, and that theme is a little disturbing to me. Don't get me wrong, I am all for space exploration and getting to the next planet, and I'm happy we got to the moon, and keep at it. But the theme that keeps coming up is that they're viewing Mars as sort of a refuge for humanity, kind of a lifeboat, implying that, well, humanity has pretty much wrecked this planet, and if there's a catastrophic event or it becomes uninhabitable for some reason, we'll always have Mars to go to, and that's why they seem to want to get there. Well, I don't know if that's the proper reason for trying to get to Mars from a Catholic perspective, and you know, I'm all about a Catholic perspective, even when we're talking about space exploration. I think it's kind of a demonstration of an arrogance or maybe a disordered understanding of our purpose on Earth, and maybe that of our understanding of the world that God gave us, to think that, number one, that we've wrecked it. I don't believe we have. God told us to be stewards of this, and I think overall we do a pretty good job of it. This whole attitude about needing to get to Mars as a refuge shows a deep pessimism that I just can't buy into. That our presence has ruined this planet and now we need a new one? Well, that raises some questions. Who would be allowed to go? That seems a little bit more selective than maybe some of the policies the Nazis put in place in the 30s and 40s. Also, it questions the end for which we were designed by God, thinking that we can control our lives to such an extent that we can just change planets, that we can control things and play God to the extent that if God has another plan for Earth, we don't want to be part of it, so we're bugging out. That sort of puts a whole new perspective on talk about the last day or the end of the world. Can we actually circumvent God's plans like that? How about instead we focus our attention on improving this world? Simply, I think, by living God's commands as given to us through Christ. If we just follow those, we'll have a pretty good world, and we don't have to search beyond beyond Earth orbit here for a utopia. What about this whole thing of giving up on the old Earth and going to Mars? What does that tell us about our reliance on God's providence in our lives? It's not very hopeful. And I guess, and I know I'm going to hate myself for saying this, because I've never thought this way about any of the space programs, but when you see what this is costing, and we're fortunate we have a multi-billionaire Elon Musk to do all this, because this is not government funded in any sense. But couldn't that money be spent right here on Earth improving a few things? Maybe so. Then you wouldn't have to go to Mars. Well, anyway, those are just some thoughts. I'm really excited about this upcoming launch, and I would be there if I knew when it was going to happen, but there's just kind of a window open for the next week or so. But I'm hoping it happens tomorrow on my day off, so I can at least watch the videos. Anyway, give it some thought. You don't have to go to Mars to improve this planet. God bless.